a New York Times piece, Dylan's hater comes to life. Oh man, that got 1 million page views, and they keep advertising it on Facebook. It says it's a picture of me in my jacket in front of Dylan's studio, and it says sponsored by the New York Times. I don't understand it. Are they making money off of me? Are people clicking on it and going to the Times and seeing some ad or maybe subscribing? I don't know what it is. Anyway, that movie, any resemblance between Bob Dylan and that movie is purely coincidental. You know, the guy's a lowlife. You know, what does he do when he first comes to New York? He becomes a male prostitute. Could you imagine that? He could have asked his parents for money. He could have, I don't know what, you know, but a male prostitute on 8th Avenue and 47th Street. Do you know that when I used to walk past there, you almost were knocked over by the smell of stale beer, that wafted from that stinky, smelly, smoke-filled, sleazoid, disgusting alcohol dispensary. That's what he did. And, it seems like he hooked up with this guy, Ray Gooch, rapidly, I forget it, real early in the game. Because in the book, he's said he's going to visit Woody, and then uh, Ray Gooch's roommate Chloe is cooking up some food, and he's smelling the food. So, and he's saying, "Yeah, I got to go to see Woody Guthrie," and that was real early, and he did it a lot, and there was no BS with that. One of the few things he did visit Guthrie on a number of occasions. The witness there is Wavy Gravy's wife, so she's like impeccable. Anyway, uh, yeah, that's what he did, you know, and this is verified by his manager, Maimonides. I always pronounce his name like some prophet, Hebrew prophet. He told it to Britta Shane, who was one of Dylan's exes, you know. And while he was hooking, he was shooting dope. Really, but you wouldn't know it. Like I'm sure he might have been copying heroin in Madison. It's not impossible back then. It would be difficult, but there were a lot of people into drugs at the time, like myself. But he started, then he says there's all these stories. These people come forward and they said, I rode with him. There was 3 of us. We stopped. We went here. He got off. But he claims he went a month earlier and got off at 42nd Street. That's why he sings after Rock and Reel and Roll and Ride, I landed up on the downtown side, Greenwich Village. He was uptown to begin with. I was trying to figure that out. Oh, does he have a friend uptown? You know, but that wasn't it. That wasn't it. Bob is gay. You know, he was forming fellatio for $20 a pop, according to British Shane and that guy Maimonides or whatever the fuck his name is. You know, his early buddy, his manager or something, who he had a fight with. You know, I mean, think about it. You know, he said we do anything. Then he didn't care. And they'd go to some sleazy hotel room. You know, how sleazy can you get? You know, I mean, that's pretty sleazy. Times Square in the 60s, early 60s. So that's what he claims. He came a month earlier or 2 months earlier. That's unclear. And he went directly to 40 Deuce. So forget that part. You know, that's not going to be in the movie, right? Especially the part where it would make great cinema. The part where he's almost killed by one of his customers with a straight edge razor, a black dude. And he sings about it, indignity, about how he went to the police and how he went to talk to pimps and the lowest people, you know, to see if he could, you know, find out who this dude was. But he couldn't. So he split, you know. It's around New Year's. Somebody got murdered on New Year's Eve. They said that Dignity was the first to leave. I looked in the cities. I looked in the towns. You know, I looked all over the goddamn place. And the guy I was living with, he'd be on the terrorist watch list now. He had an arsenal. I heard of this guy. He was a Jew hater. I lived next door to this guy, Dave Moore, at 146 Sullivan Street. He was like a junkie and an A-head, right? So he'd be playing all of these Dylan records all the time. And he said, I know Dylan's heroin connection. It's a guy named Ray who lives on the far west side and whose favorite slogan is guns for the Arabs, sneakers for the Jews. So I'm figuring out what kind of Jew is hanging out with a guy like this. Anyway, it's Ray Gooch was the guy's name. And he was a Nazi. He wanted to go to the Congo, to Katanga province, where there was mercenaries who were killing blacks. You know, he didn't care what blacks he killed. Dylan describes him as a non-integrationist. He had a drug lab and an arsenal in his crib. Now that would have made much better cinema. So what does he do after that, you know? He plays the cafes, the basket houses, and he's in the Gaslight, you know? And he wants to make the transition to Gertie's Folk City. So he writes, lights flicker in the opposite loft. Gertie's was located in a loft. But in this room or venue, the heat pipes just cough. It's the Gaslight Cafe where the heat pipes are, and also the waste pipes are running on the ceiling. So there's hope in Gertie's Folk City. but the gaslight's a dead end. And as fate would have it, he was discovered in Gertie's Folk City by Robert Shelton. No, not the Times journalist. I'm talking about the head of the Ku Klux Klan. He heard blowing in the wind and figured out that it was about hanging blacks to keep them in line. And he gave Dylan his first big break. Because that's what it's about. He put one over on everybody. How many times must a cannonball fly? Must people, a loose cannon go off like a murderer rapist before he's forever banned? Banned is in South Africa, where if you had anything to do with the ANC, you were banned, which was like virtual house arrest. So the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind. It's to bring back lynching. Like black bodies, going back and forth in the southern breeze. What's her name? I forget. Some dope-addict black woman. Billie Holiday sang that, strange fruit. There's a lot of strange fruits walking around now, too. Human or otherwise. Anyway, back to Dylan. I'm making a, please.
Do you have?
I'm making a video.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, what I suggest is that Bob transition, and he can start his career all over again. Well, and those paintings. He hires this Chinese guy to do the paintings. He says, do Jonas Schimmel and, play Chinatown fish markets and stuff, But he doesn't do it because there was a big jump from his semi-abstract, rather primitive artwork to all of a sudden he's doing these super detailed paintings. So I asked around, and I found out this Chinese guy does the paintings and he signs them. So the galleries are getting ripped off. It's like the auto pen scam where he had an auto pen to sign his books. He's a hustler, I'm telling you, in more ways than one. So, and, he doesn't get the place on Positively 4th Street right away. And, what does he do? He works his way up. He's got the Robert Shelton thing, and he uses that to get television appearances. And eventually, he gets a record contract, or he got a record contract before the television appearances. He worms his way into the communist folk scene, lives with a communist. His mother edits the Italian Italian language communist newspaper, and his father's a big functionary in the party. He worms his way in there. And Shelton was called before the House Select Committee not the House Select Assassination, on the House Un-American Activities Committee. Asked if he was a communist. So Shelton gives him this big break. And Shelton was the one, Dylan was the one that told Shelton all about his the lost months in his life. There's a tape of it. So the rest, is freewheeling. He becomes a symbol of the civil rights movement, even though exactly the opposite is true. Made fools out of everybody in that civil rights march. The Peter, Paul, and Mary singing "Blowing in the Wind." What they're really singing is "Hang the blacks," but there's another word for it. And he's a hustler. How many people understand his book Tarantula, which I forced him into publishing? That was so fucking, you know, I bootlegged it. Why do people buy it? Nobody understands it except me and Bob. And I don't know, at this point, I don't even know if he's sharp enough to remember, what it all means. Because he sits at the piano with the lyrics in front of him. Poor Bob. He was almost knocking on heaven's door when his thread of life was almost cut. What a coward. He can't live without heroin. He'll commit suicide without heroin. You know? So, you know, it's weird. He's still shooting up because the last thing I heard was Black Rider, Black Rider, I'll write you a song. Some enchanted evening, I'll write you a song. Enchanted is casual dancing, spell my way. That means when I'm high on smack. Black Rider, you've been at it too long. You've been trying to get Dylan to stop using dope for too long. And he ain't going to stop, even though it gave him HIV/AIDS. And he came really close to dying when he contracted histoplasmosis. I told him, don't mess with the needles. What are you going to do? He's a know-it-all, Mr., like Milton Berle and Arnold. I was Arnold Stang. I said enough for tonight. Let's see what time it is. 9:05. Oh, there's the clock. The clock back there says 9:10. If you look in the background here, you'll see a picture of one of my idols, William Colby. So what can I tell you? It was autographed and it was on eBay for a couple of, maybe $10, $15, because who wants a picture of William Colby or an autograph? One of the guys that masterminded Operation Phoenix. There's some stuff in the new documents about Operation Phoenix and the personnel that were involved. It's very interesting. So that's the story. What more can I say? The movie, the whole thing revolved around, this and that, him going electric and then booing at Newport. So, Dylan pretty well summed it up. I had a I had a job in the old Northwoods. He played in Newport, working as a cook for a spell, cooking up stuff to put uh, left wingers into a spell, or cooking and spell as using drugs. Cast your dancing spell my way, and dancing spell my way. I promised to go under it, or something like that. And so I was working for a cook for a spell, to get getting high. I never did like it all that much. So it must have been, uh, it must have been, when he says working for a cook for a spell, it must have been cooking up stuff. Nothing to do with heroin, with can't you dance to spell my way, or like that. Because the next line is, I had a job in the old Northwest working as a cook for a spell. I never did like it all that much. He never did like playing acoustic guitar that much, all that much. He hated it. That was the last thing he wanted to do. The very last thing in the world that I want to do is to be an idiot like Woody and hit Cisco and sing Hard Traveling too. So he never did like it all that much. And one day the axe, which is a guitar, or Pete Seeger's axe, just fell. The axe fell from his acoustic axe fell from his arms, and the axe fell on the cables from Pete Seeger. So that's what he has to. The whole thing is summed up in one line. And they make a big, big mishpacha out of it or something. I don't know what that word means. Family, I don't know. So there was a scene there where Dylan takes out the garbage. I thought that was rather gratuitous, unless it has something to do with me. And, the guy was good. He was saying he was a good Dylan tribute band singer. Not nowhere as good as Joel Gilbert, but he was good, He put his heart into it. He looked a little like Dylan from a profile view. And there wasn't much to it. The whole thing with Susie and Baez was made up, unless they had a Susie Baez catfight. They could have made that part of the movie. That would be politically correct. So that was made up. I guess he gets West 4th Street so quick, like he's there. The next thing you know, he's at West 4th Street. And, Gooch, he worked he did part-time work for the mafia, refining opium into morphine. And cops were probably on the pad, so they leave him alone. And like I said, I heard of him. Because I lived in the Village around 1964. So that was, they didn't have Chloe Keel, who's Ramona, who's Dylan's real love, the one he really loved. Not, Joan Baez, he calls her all kinds of names, in his songs. And Susie, he says, I got a woman 5 foot short, yells and hollers, screams and snorts. You know, then he also thinks I got a woman that sends me checks. She's a folk singer, humdinger. They didn't care. Susie didn't care. You know, even if he was bowling Baez. As long as she was a fellow traveler or a party member or something, it was okay with her, you know. Well, it's back to the documents again. Thousands of pages of JFK documents. So I hope you all enjoyed the movie. And, you know, I got some ink out of it.